This is the Generative AI Taskforce at the TUM Think Tank, bringing together a diverse team of experts and researchers who provide guidance to decision makers in government, industry, and civil society on issues related to the design, governance, and use of generative AI technologies. Today we're talking to Isabell Welpe from the TUM School of Management, whose research focuses on leadership, innovation, and organization.
So we just want to set the ground with one question, quite a broad one about your field, which is where you see the greatest potentials or use cases of generative AI in your specific field, if you can touch on that.
Sure. Well, my name is Strategy and Organization. That involves how we organize work and working together inside the organization. And of course, generative AI touches upon transaction costs and the potential to bring down costs and to increase revenue and to lower mistakes and to make services available 24/7, of course, all highly relevant to the question of how will organizations look like. And with regard to the field of strategy, there was an interesting experiment done in an Asian firm where for a short time at the company NetDragon Websoft, an AI was actually made CEO and performed quite well for some time until the performance stopped and dropped quite sharply. So probably in the near future, strategy making the job of a CEO or other board members will at least be supported by AI and other AI-derived tools and applications, such as tracking company performance, budgeting, forecasting, developing strategic objectives, breaking them down. These are all things that potentially could benefit from some AI support.
I was actually thinking about, well, did that really go to plan?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a new thing. There've been several studies before the current boom in AI on how people actually accept or whether people actually accept AI as a supervisor. And the results might be surprising. They might be counterintuitive to some people, but people generally in those studies report that they felt better understood by their AI leader than a human leader. And there was just, I think, last week a study out in JMAR, a medical study, where the AI doctor was not just more knowledgeable, but also reported to be much more empathetic towards the patients, and the patients preferred to talk to the AI. So we might be in for a surprise if we think that leadership tasks cannot be supplemented or maybe even replaced by AI in the future.
And that's also an interesting point, because when we talk about AI, oftentimes we say like, oh yeah, but it can't replace humanity, it can't replace us because of its lack of empathy. And that's a really interesting point. But now I want to touch on the challenges that you see within that field. Is there one or two broader prominent challenges that you see with AI in that?
I think as with all digital technologies, the issue of data security, data protection, data privacy certainly is also present with AI. And what data can you feed it with? What data should you not upload or reveal? How can you use the power of AI while at the same time still preserving data integrity? So definitely, as we had with other digital technologies and digital tools, data protection is a key challenge. Relatedly, I think the acceptance and risk perception of the people is another one, because every technology only goes so far as there is acceptance in it socially. And the acceptance will, of course, depend upon the perceived risks, also issues of data privacy and security, but also the field of bias. What kinds of biases are inherent in an AI, and where does it sort of get things wrong? And can you check that? Can you know that? So I think around those areas probably are going to be some key challenges with regards to implementation.
Mm. And now we've heard a lot in the public debate about regulation and about accessibility. Now that you've also talked about biases, I wonder if there's any more points that we're lacking from the public debate?
I don't know if there are blind spots still, but there was, I think, an unusual outcry, one could call it, of the scientists who understand large language models in depth about the dangers inherent in them. Most strikingly, to me, not necessarily the 6-month ban some entrepreneurs called for, but the interview by Eliezer Yudkowsky, who is a machine learning researcher in Boston, in Time magazine. And if you read this interview and if you listen to other interviews he's given, he basically says, if we don't stop it, if we don't regulate it in a much better way than we are doing today, then literally it's going to be the end of humanity, which I think, yeah, is quite a statement about any new technology. And he's adamant also in his other interviews. He talks about that if we don't shut it down, basically, this is going to be the end of all of us. Yeah, I think that's something, of course, that will be debated deeply, I hope.
There's, from what I see, there's a lot of talk about how this is going to change our work and our workforce and how we structure our work. And do you think that there's something that we oversee in this part of the debate?
I think for a long time we've overseen the fact that so-called white-collar workers, desk job workers, we thought that they had the more secure jobs, when we are now starting to realize that actually it's more of the people who work with their hands, doing maintenance, doing cleaning, doing installation work, being on the ground in a building somewhere. They have the jobs the least affected by AI, but the ones who are in, social science, legal, office, admin support are maybe in for at least a colleague, an AI colleague that they're going to do their work with. So it could be up with surrender your desk job to AI, not so much your manual labor job.
And tying into that, we've only, on a societal basis, like broadly known about ChatGPT and the like for like the last 12 months or so, although it has been around for much longer.
Yeah.
But regarding that, it's just only so new, and there has happened so much within that short time span. Yeah. Where do you expect us to be in 12 months from now?
Well, I think it's true that we tend to overestimate what can be done in a year and tend to underestimate what will happen in 10 years' time. So I would expect it to be, to have a radically different way we organize work and working together in 10 years. And within 1 year, of course, to have more adoption. As you said, the technology has been around. It has been underestimated, as are many new technologies that have lived past their initial hype, because new technologies can usually never live up to the hype expectations created around the hype. But then, of course, it's a mistake to forget all about them, because after the hype, there comes the phase of long, solid, slower development and steady improvement. And at a certain point, as we have now with AI and its user-friendly interface, ChatGPT, the technology is back, and back for good. And that was the case here, and I expect that to continue. And it's going to be interesting to see the convergence of different technologies. So we do have AI, we have big data, we have Internet of Things, we have Web3 with its back-end revolution coming up that enables direct transactions, authenticity of pictures. And I think Web3 and blockchain will have a key role to play in ensuring the authenticity of videos, pictures, anything really, because AI has gotten so good that you often can't distinguish whether this is fake or real. But I think also as I said, with blockchain, you can incorporate some metadata about a video, about its origin, where it originated, when it originated, and you can store that on a blockchain and then look up whether that is from a credible source, in fact. And I think we'll start to see more of that, because fake videos have gotten so good, fake voices, that maybe in a year's time you couldn't really be sure if you're talking to me right now or my bot that I've set up to work in the evening for me.
How do you yourself use generative AI right now?
Oh, I think like everyone else, I'm excited to try out new things that seem to appear every day. Trying to improve the prompts, trying to, teach it little tricks, trying to see if I can get around having questions answered. And I think it's a great improvement in terms of saving time for any tasks that are repetitive, that are routine tasks. I would say it's even quite good at something we might consider creative, like writing speeches. It makes great poems, even in German, not in a non-native language, I guess. German is a non-native language, I guess. So you can use it basically for everything. It's like having a private intern or a private assistant around you that you can at least converse with, even if they sometimes don't know how they can help you. At least you get a reply to do some conversation with. Many new developments like Auto GPT, and now the announcement of OpenAI about its plugins, the so-called App Store for ChatGPT. So that's going to be interesting in a year's time, how you get automation done simply by telling an app to do it. You could automate a lot of things already, but you had to have some degree of technical understanding and knowledge, linking different apps, making sure they're doing the right thing. So if that's an outcome, I think it can alleviate the shortage of certain workers that we have sort of faced in the past, couldn't fill certain positions. It can make people faster at work or more productive, freeing up time, which I think everyone feels would be quite beneficial.
Thank you so much for your insight and your time, Isabell.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Great having you.
Thank you for listening. If you have questions, challenges, or use cases that you want to bring to the task force, write us at TUM Think Tank at hfp.tum.de.